Excelsior, true believers! You are about to embark upon a journey, a trip to the 70s and 80s when mighty Marvel Comics ruled over all. The Defenders, Doctor Strange, the Champions, Deathlock, the Submariner, the Incredible Hulk, Killraven, the Son of Satan, the Macabre Man-Thing, and all your other Bronze Age favorites every week appearing on Defenders Dialogue. Now here are your guides, Christopher Golden and Brian Keene.
Excelsior, true believers.
Excelsior indeed, and welcome back once again to Defenders Dialogue. I'm Brian Keene.
And I'm Christopher Golden. And Brian, today we're going to prove the reason, we're going to answer the question of why we can't just do the complete runs of 2 and 1 and team up without breaking them up at some point along the way. Because we have two of the dumbest stories we have ever covered in this show.
We do. Marvel 2 and 1, issue number 8, and Marvel Team Up, issue number 8. And yes, it's some of our favorite characters. Mm-hmm. All characters that have been talked about frequently on this show by some of our favorite creators, including my favorite Marvel creative team of all time. Mm-hmm. And yet, the whole thing just falls apart in this glorious 1970s chaotic mess.
It is a mess. There's no question. Marvel 2 and 1 number 8 presenting The Thing and Ghost Rider. It's written by Steve Gerber, art by Sal Buscema and Mike Esposito. I am a big fan of Buscema, as I know you are a huge fan. I think he's your favorite Marvel Comics artist from this era. The art in this issue is trash. The face of the Ghost Rider is terrible. Yeah. I'm not happy. Anyway,
I agree. I mean, yeah, Buscema's not only my favorite from this era. He's my favorite Marvel artist of all time. And when he's teamed with Gerber, as longtime listeners know, going back to their iconic Defenders run, that to me that is Marvel. But it's very clear that this was a rush job on all counts. Yes. Gerber, Buscema, did the starts. Esposito did the finish, and nothing against either one of those artists, but it just does not gel here.
I mean, Len Wein is the editor here, and it's all I think is they must have realized this is going to come out in December at the last minute. Said, we need to do a Christmas issue.
And they did a lot of weed beforehand, is going to be my guess. But yeah, we open up in the Arizona desert, and we're told by the caption that it's Christmas Eve 1974. So Ghost Rider is driving through the Arizona desert, and he almost crashes into 3 men riding on camels. They are, in fact, depicted to be the 3 wise men from biblical lore.
Mm-hmm. They're drawn as the 3 wise men, which, of course, makes Johnny Blaze. Now, we should establish that at this point, Johnny Blaze believes, at least, that he has freed himself from the control of Satan from the deal he made for his soul, but somehow is still the Ghost Rider.
Right.
So he crashes his bike in the desert when he sees these 3 guys who are following a star in the distance, this bright star. And we have this caption box that says Kings, Star, Child, Prophecy. Once again, Johnny Blaze is struck speechless. And then the 3 wise men ask the Ghost Rider to join them on their pilgrimage.
Yes, they have myrrh and frankincense are gifts, and they're happy to share these gifts with Johnny so that he can also pay tribute to this child. But Johnny Blaze, he's seen enough of God and the devil in this lifetime. He says, "No thanks. I'm going to keep riding. Catch you later."
but he rides toward that distant star because
Yes, he
he doesn't want to wait for the camels. He's like, I've got to go figure out what the heck is going on here. He's going to investigate.
Yep.
So we cut to the Baxter Building in New York, where Ben Grimm is grumpily helping Reed Richards with some kind of contraption on the roof of the Baxter Building. It's Christmas Eve, and Ben is admonishing Reed for not being with the family downstairs as they're beginning their Christmas celebration. Now, Brian, maybe you can, maybe you have the memory to answer this question. But in 1974, had Marvel already established that Ben Grimm was Jewish? I believe they had.
They had, yeah, they established
that. Gerber missed that meeting.
I mean, that's the thing. And props to Gerber, because this scene is my favorite in the book, because for a moment it's Gerber doing what he does best, the human interplay of these superpowered characters. But yeah, like you said, in that same panel, completely misses that Ben is Jewish.
In the whole, it isn't even that scene, because I agree with you about that scene. But then when you turn the page and you get to Alicia Masters comes in, Alicia, who in present day is married to Ben, right. But Alicia comes in and fetches Ben, and they go into where the family is all celebrating. It's Johnny Storm and Medusa from the Inhumans and Wondar and
Namorita, Submariner's cousin, all of them.
Exactly. So they're all celebrating, and there's a 2-page thing of all this Christmas celebration, and this is Ben Grimm's comic. This is his comic, and at no point does it seem like he's anything other than a Christian guy. And again, I'm not. It's not a big deal. They didn't have to make a big deal out of the fact that he wasn't. But you'd think there'd be some acknowledgement of the fact that he's a Jewish man.
Particularly in Gerber's hands. Yeah, there'd be a one-off line or something like that. But that's what I mean. It's obviously a rush job.
Yeah.
But we do get a funny bit here where Reed Richards wired up the Christmas tree too well. And it sets off fireworks like the 4th of July. And Ben just thinks this is the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ben is laughing hysterically because he's happy. He's happy because he realizes that despite the way that Reed seems to be ignoring Christmas, he's actually full of the Christmas spirit, so much that he went overboard with the tree.
Right.
But we cut back to the desert where the Ghost Rider rides in and discovers not a Native American settlement that he expects, but actually a town that looks an awful lot like it belongs in the Middle East and perhaps is actually Bethlehem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we want to approach this next part, but, as Johnny rides towards it, wondering if he, quote, drove through a patch of loco weed and is hallucinating out of his mind, he gets there. And he realizes the people are all dressed as they would have been in the ancient town of Bethlehem. However, the people there are all indigenous people. The character of Wyatt Wingfoot, which I don't think we've ever had on this show. He's a Fantastic Four supporting character, right. Indigenous American. It's his tribe. It's his people that are suddenly dressed like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, it's interesting because just to take a sideline here, Wyatt Wingfoot was always one of those characters I wanted to see more of. A lot of times you had, Chris Claremont probably was the person who made the most impact on me with creating ongoing supporting characters. I mean, outside of the Spider-Man supporting characters like J. Jonah Jameson and Mary Jane and Aunt May, Claremont did so much with creating ongoing supporting characters in the titles that he wrote. But in FF, you had some characters as well, like I didn't care if I saw more of Willie Lumpkin. I'm just telling you that right out of the bag, right out of the gate. And But Wyatt was this character I always wanted to see more of, because every time I would see him, I would be like, well, what's his life? I want to go up and because he always had something going on.
Right.
But anyway, he shows up here as the innkeeper. So now we have an understanding that somehow the Arizona desert has been transformed into Bethlehem on the evening of the birth of Christ.
That's right. And sure enough, Ghost Rider finds a manger with a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and the parents standing over it. And before he can approach, a mysterious shadowed figure tells him to halt. He is the creator. The child is his. He made him. And Ghost Rider should depart at once.
Now, Brian, I think you need to earn yourself a Christmas No Prize at this moment. Because this story takes place on December 24th, which is the day before Christ's birthday, according to Christian lore.
Right.
But the baby has already appeared here.
Well, I can get a no prize for that. You'll notice this issue is taking place in 2 time zones: Eastern time zone, which is the Baxter Building in New York, and what is Arizona? Is that Pacific or Mountain, or it's not Central? I don't know. It's a different time zone. Obviously, in the Baxter Building, it's already Christmas. And here in Arizona, it's not. But
here in Arizona is where the baby is.
Right, but the creator, who we're just going to go ahead and spoil this for everybody. He's longtime Fantastic Four villain, Miracle Man. We've talked about him on this show before in conjunction with Man-Thing. He's doing this on East Coast time because it's the Thing's book. So
I see.
I'll take my no prize.
Yeah, I don't think you've earned one. I'm sorry. I think that either Steve Gerber or Miracle Man forgot that Christmas Eve the baby hadn't arrived yet. It's Christmas Day when the baby had arrived. But in any case, so Miracle Man, creates a little cyclone that blows away the Ghost Rider and then his motorcycle. And we cut back to the Baxter Building. And more of this conversation between Reed and Ben. Ben basically comes in and says, look, something's going on. I've got to, you, Reed, you have got to, wait, I'm saying it wrong. Reed has found that something's going wrong in Arizona where Wyatt Wingfoot lives. And he is going to go. And Ben's like, no, man, I'll go. You go play with your family. It's Christmas Eve.
That's right. So Ben goes flying off in the Fantastic Car, and he lands in Arizona within a page. It takes him half a page to travel from New York to Arizona. Ghost Rider sees him. Ben sees Ghost Rider's head and thinks it's a flare. And when he lands, we get the first meeting between the Ghost Rider and Ben Grimm. But it all takes place between the panels.
Yep. No, I do. I like this. It's always convenient when the characters have heard of one another.
Yes.
Because Ben says, you're that junior grade Evel Knievel, ain't you, Johnny Blaze? I'd seen ads for your cycle show in the papers. And Johnny basically says, don't ask me why I'm wearing this flaming helmet. Sure. And Ben doesn't seem all that curious.
But you know what? This era of Marvel Comics, as we've said over and over again, the first time the heroes would meet, 95% of the time they end up fighting each other for a page or two.
You're right.
I like that Gerber just is like, no, fuck that.
Gerber's like, I don't have room for this.
Yeah, I don't have time. This is overdue. I'm rushing this script.
Well, the thing is, he rushes through that so we can get to the next page, Brian.
Yes.
The next page is right out of The Wizard of Oz.
I knew you'd love this.
And it's my favorite thing that Johnny Blaze had gone back to the Three Wise Men and persuaded them to allow him and Ben to impersonate 2 of them. So we have the Three Wise Men showing up at the the barn where the cradle of Jesus sits with Mary and Joseph, and two of the wise men dressed in the finery of the three kings are Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, whose skull is conveniently no longer on fire.
Yes.
Just a skull head.
I knew you would love this. You always love this. You know, Defenders, whenever they would dress Namor and Hulk up in the, you know, the trench coat and the hat, you loved it.
Love it. In fact, I feel like the thing that I feel like if we'd had the merchandise in the 70s that they have now, there would have been action figures of these variants, and I would have had to have them all. Like, every time you dress up a guy like Ben Grimm in some stupid outfit, like when they're masquerading as somebody else, it always makes me laugh. And this one, man, you've got to show this page.
I am.
On YouTube.
This will be on YouTube.
I'm just, it's so stupid, but I love it so much.
Well, then the Miracle Man makes himself known, and they get into a big fight. The Miracle Man turns some of the people into monstrous demons, and there's fight, and then we get this long, drawn-out backstory from Fantastic Four 139. Basically, Wyatt Wingfoot's ancestors, who are spirits in the sky, took the Miracle Man to try to, you know, enlighten him to the next level of existence, and instead he took all that knowledge to increase his powers, and you know, as a result, he can bend the cosmos to his will, and he's decided to create a star and create a child Messiah and create a Bethlehem right here in the Arizona desert. It makes no sense.
Well, what he says is that because he claims he's immortal, and essentially he wants to be God. He wants to have absolute power. And in his whacked out mind, the way to have absolute power is to create a Messiah. So he said, if I create a star in the sky and have it and create a child, then that child is the new Messiah, and thus he then has absolute power because he basically thinks he's then God.
Still makes no sense.
No, but I'm just saying that's what Gerber did on very short deadline, I imagine, or whatever drugs he was taking at this time were not as good as his usual drugs. Then you get fight, and then Ben Grimm is like, I don't know why the Ghost Rider doesn't burn, because he's just a guy in a mask as far as Ben Grimm is concerned. And then there's this panel, Brian, of Miracle Man. By the way, not to be confused with the Alan Moore Miracle Man, folks.
Right.
There's a panel of Miracle Man laughing. Next year, my time will come again. And with the mustache he has, the tiny little thin mustache, it's the funniest, like, it's Snidely Whiplash. I'm waiting
really
for
is.
my Penelope pit stop to the train tracks. Anyway.
So yeah, more fight. And then we get to clobbering time, and Ben turns Miracle Man into Miracle Margarine, knocking him unconscious. And as he's unconscious, everything that he did, you know, all the transformations he made fade. So everything turns back to the way it was. And then we find out that, you know, these ancestors, you know, these mystical beings of Wyatt Wingfoot's were actually the three wise men, that Miracle Man had transformed them into the three wise men. So they abscond with him.
Well, and in fact, there were four of those ancestors,
right?
And three of them were transformed into the wise men, and one of them was transformed into the baby,
right?
And the three wise men turned back into those ancestral spirits, and they lay down their wisdom and depart. But the baby remains behind in the care of Wyatt Wingfoot, and I don't know if it's his wife or I have to. Yeah. In any case, so I wonder if they ever followed up on that baby.
I don't think they did.
It seems to me like that baby ought to be a superhero.
I think so. One thing I do want to point out to listeners, as this issue draws to a close, we have Ben wondering why Miracle Man's fires didn't work on Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze is wondering that himself, and he's thinking about how his life and soul were saved just days ago by a mysterious friend. Now, if you are a longtime listener of Defenders Dialogue, then you'll know that we covered that special issue, Ghost Rider, issue number 9, in which the Ghost Rider teamed up with Jesus Christ himself. Marvel couldn't call him Jesus, so they called him the Friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you go back through the archives, wherever you listen to this show, you can find that episode.
And I want to point out before we move on that the next issue box for this says that the next issue will be The Thing and Iron Fist. But in fact, in the next issue, Chris Claremont takes over as scripter, although Gerber did plot the next issue. And in fact, it is not Iron Fist. It's The Thing and the Mighty Thor in the next issue.
Yes.
So I am mightily confused. I don't know what happened there, but I'd be really curious to find out. But in any case, that Iron Fist story didn't happen.
That's right.
So
we move on to Marvel Team Up issue number 8. I know Chris is excited for this one because he loves it when I do my Hellcat voice. However, this is not Hellcat.
Correct.
So you will not get that today. But yes, Spider-Man and the Cat. Creative team is Jerry Conway on writing, Jim Mooney on art, and I want to talk about this cover for a minute. It's Spider-Man and the Cat, and the word balloons. Spider-Man. This places it in a certain time because Spider-Man says, "Keep your cool, cat lady. The old wall crawler cometh." And you've got Cat saying, "No way, man. If you butt your way into this grudge match, we'll both mop up the floor with you."
But don't forget to mention the caption box on the cover, which says, "Enter the murderously magnificent gal they call the Man Killer." And I just feel like gal undermines the feminist bent of this issue.
It really does.
Look, I got to tell you, so this is called The Man Killer Moves at Midnight. Now, the Marvel 2-in-1 issue we just covered, number 8, is incredibly silly. This issue, Marvel Team Up number 8, is incredibly stupid. I mean, it's just really dumb, which breaks my heart, Brian, because, yes, this is not Hellcat. It is, in fact, the Cat, who'd only recently appeared for the first time in The Claws of the Cat number 1.
Right.
The Cat is Greer Nelson, who will soon become the superhero we will know as Tigra, and have a very long career in the Marvel Universe as Tigra.
And the costume that she's wearing will be taken over by Patsy Walker, who will rename herself Hellcat.
Exactly. So the costume will go to Patsy as Hellcat. And I love the Claws of the Cat miniseries. I love Greer Nelson as the Cat and later as Tigra. These are characters I adore. But this issue and the whole, and again, I just think maybe it's also in retrospect, reading something that is intended to be, I imagine it's intended to be a liberal story, a progressive story. But so much of it is so dumb. But go ahead.
It's very of its time. And,
yes.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to say this, but I will now. You know, longtime listeners know Chris and I, we don't get very political on this show. We do when it calls for it.
The comics are political.
Yeah, and as we've pointed out, even back in the Bronze Age, even in the 1970s, these comics were very political. But in case you're a new listener and you don't know where we stand, Chris, obviously very progressive. I'm not quite as progressive as Chris, but I'm certainly left of center, or center left. I don't know what the term is these days. But reading this comic to me felt like reading my Twitter feed, where it's people on the right and people on the left and conservatives and progressives, and every one of them sounds like a goddamn lunatic. Because Conway does a great job here in 1974 of trying to hit all the viewpoints.
Yep.
But every one of these people, including Spider-Man, I just want to fucking slap.
Yes. Yes. So, and again, it is, it's 50 years of hindsight. Let's not forget this. I mean, this was actually, so if that 2-in-1 was 74, this might be 72. I mean, this is
73, April 1973.
So 48 years of hindsight.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And I also will say, by the way, that one of these days, you and I are going to have a conversation where we tick through all of the various issues of the day. And I think you will find that you are far more progressive than you think you are. I think
I am until it gets to certain things.
Yeah, I would think we would find that 98% of the time we're in accord. But the man killer moves at midnight. So let's just say I don't want to go through all of the dialogue on this story.
It's so fucking 70s.
But basically, what happens is that Greer Nelson, the cat, is trying to sneak up on Spider-Man because she wants to prove to him in short order that she's capable and that she has powers and that she's she's worthy of his time, basically.
Right.
So that explains why we open with her attacking him. Of course, his spider sense goes off. They have a little scuffle. He thinks in the shadows that this is a man who's attacking him. And when he says, you've got some questions to answer and you're going to, wait a minute, you're a girl.
You cooties.
Correction, Spider-Man, I'm a woman. And I'm not just any woman. I'm the cat. And I like that. But it's just, anyway. So that's her introduction. And she's like, now do you want to talk? Wait, you attacked me out of nowhere. You didn't give me an option to talk first. You attacked me, and then you act like, Anyway, go ahead.
Twitter. This is what happens on Twitter.
It is Twitter. Go ahead.
So she explains that she did this to prove herself to Spider-Man. The reason she's tracking him down is because she's on the trail of a supervillain known as the Man Killer. Her real name is Katrina Lucia von Horn. Basically, this woman just assassinated a guy who was campaigning for the mayor of Chicago. This mayoral candidate is described as violently anti-women's lib. And he's assassinated in broad daylight by the Man Killer. So the cat is tracking the Man Killer down, and she's tracked her here to New York City. And, she needs Spider-Man's help. Why? Well, because Spider-Man is a loner, an outcast. She thinks that he knows what it means to fight an established order and that he's willing to battle for the things that he believes in.
Yeah. And that convinces him. And then I think that's appropriate. I love the fact that when he says why, she has an immediate and explicit answer, and it's accurate. And instead of being a wise guy, he's like, good enough. And I liked that, actually. you skipped over, Brian, in the recap of how we got here. When the cat encountered the man killer for the first time back in Chicago, we got to see her for the first time.
Well, it's one of the most ridiculous costumes of the era.
It is. So, she has a chest plate that sort of like, I assume it's armored. It looks like the supervillain Armadillo is her chest plate, and it also reminded me of the David Carradine 1970s or 80s fantasy classic Warrior and the Sorceress.
Yes.
He goes into a bar and there's a woman with 6 breasts.
Yes.
But nevertheless, it's really silly looking. But the best, in air quotes, part of the costume is the female symbol that is right on her vagina.
Yeah. Dangling from her belt. She has this belt of knives, and in the center of that belt of knives is the female symbol, the circle with the little cross beneath it, and it's right over her genitals.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is an interesting choice. I'm just saying, but in any case, yes, we have that. That's how the cat persuades Spider-Man to go with him, and then we cut to the hideout of the people who have trained and aided the man killer. And the man killer smashes her way through the wall, and her allies say, "Lord in heaven, it's Katrina. What do you hope to prove by that? By smashing your way through this wall, which we will have to repair later at great expense." I just wanted you to know, Miss Cartwright, the man killer is back in town.
That's right.
I know people who show up to conventions like this, Brian, and
why are you looking at me when you say
I don't know who's, anyway.
So, we find out that in this boardroom, it's all women except for one bald middle-aged guy. And we find out that they have financed and trained and developed the man killer, who is pissed off that this man is in their presence. And he's not just a man. As she said, he is a filthy man. And this guy, Drake, he responds with, "Watch yourself, girlie. I don't take that kind of talk from nobody, not even a woman." And, just in case we don't understand the man killer's politics here, Jerry Conway lets us know as she beats Drake to a pulp. She says that men are dirt, etc. And then we get her origin, her backstory, which I love Jerry Conway. I love his stuff, but this is the dumbest fucking thing ever in Marvel history. I'll take Frogman over this shit, okay?
I mean, so basically, and I disagree with you. I think that if the man killer were a better character, this backstory would be better.
Okay.
So basically, she was an Olympic skier. She's in the ski lodge. Two, asshole bros are talking, and this one arrogant prick is talking about how women's athletes are absurd. Women athletes are absurd. A man can no woman can ever beat a man, a true man, in athletic competition. And she gets pissed off and she challenges him to a race, basically, as skiers. And we see them racing. And the art is actually pretty nice here. And while they're racing, in a fit of ego, he cuts her off on purpose to try to, cheat to win the race. And they collide and they go off a cliff together. And he dies, but she is badly ruined and scarred. And then we get the reveal of really like her powers are, I'm sure she's also got some kind of other strength, but she's got an exoskeleton under her costume because her body is broken and gnarled and scarred. And to me, that's cool because it's like probably 75 different Iron Man villains have this same origin. so I don't have a problem with the origin story. I have a problem with, or even the man killer. I just have a problem with how the whole thing is executed, because from that page on, it just gets so stupid, because their plan, she's like, well, here, I got it when she was like assassinating this anti-women's lib politician. I got that. Like, I can see that movie in the 70s, right?
Right.
But then she's like, the center of male control in New York City is this power plant. So we're going to go destroy the power plant. Well, that affects everybody in the city, not just the men. I understand when you want to assassinate these politicians who are trying to rule over women's bodies. But if you just want to make the power go out, what's the story with that?
Well, exactly. And we should talk about that, because she doesn't just attack the power plant with her exoskeleton. She has this flying super tank with laser beams and drills and all kinds of other nonsense.
Yep.
You have to wonder. I
swear to God, I turned the page and I was like, what the fuck is this?
You have to wonder, who is this group that is financing her? Well, we're going to find out who.
Yeah.
But yeah, she attacks the power plant, and she's attacking the guards there and the workers that are there. And then Spider-Man and the Cat show up, and it's fight.
Well, but when Spider-Man shows up, the interesting thing to me is that Spider-Man is on the Cat's side here. Like, it's clear from the way the story is done, he's respecting her. He doesn't agree with what the man killer is doing, but he certainly is treating her like an equal. He admires her professionalism, her skills and stuff like that. That's all good. But when he shows up to the man killer, she says, no one ambushes the man killer, no one. And he says, want to bet, beautiful?
And see, again, it's Twitter, and I am Spider-Man, because there have been times when people on one side or another of the issue have said something that I ostensibly agree with and believe in, but they are such douchebags about it that I want to respond in that way, with snark, just to get their goat. This whole issue is Twitter, I'm telling you.
Oh, God. Anyway, so let's see. What are we saying? Yeah. So there's more fighting. The Cat shows her agility and strength. She actually knocks out the man killer for a while. But then as they're making short work of the allies that have come in the giant flying doohickey tank, they realize that the man killer is gone. And then the guy in charge of the plant, Watkins, comes rushing in and says, you've got to catch her before it's too late. We've been working on a special project at the power plant. Quite hush-hush, you understand. There were certain materials highly radioactive, a new prototype for a high produce generator. That woman, she's taken it. She doesn't understand. So again, like, this project is, I feel like that guy's dialogue came from like a generic doohickey MacGuffin
yes.
producer, I can't even think of the word, generator.
Yeah.
In any case, but Spider-Man knows better. He's like, no, I bet that she chose this place specifically to get that special secret project. Great.
Right. So he tells Cat, you stay here, mop up the rest of her militants, her other goons. I'll go after her, because this is my town and my headache. And he goes swinging off, combs the entire island of Manhattan, and then finally in a warehouse somewhere, his spider sense goes off. And sure enough, it's the man killer. And she's got the MacGuffin with her, and they start fighting more. And then suddenly the Cat shows up.
The Cat shows up, Brian, and and I want to stress that I really believe this. We get the single worst ending of any comic book we have covered on this show.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Because the Cat does nothing except reveal to the man killer that, in fact, the people financing all of her training and all of her equipment have been AIM. And the scientists at AIM are mostly men. And she's been doing the bidding of these men without realizing it. And the man killer, because she's a woman, I don't know, maybe not because she's a woman, but the man killer has a breakdown and just loses her sanity and is standing there as like a drooling, she's literally drooling on the page. Mad woman.
The shock of it is so much that she is rendered catatonic. What?
This is really fucking stupid. Come on. I mean, this is like, I'm like, so I was rendered catatonic by reading that page.
Yeah. And look, again, folks, we're not slagging on the creators here. You know my passion for Steve Gerber. And Chris and I both adore Jerry Conway's stuff. It's just it's a fine example of a writer isn't going to hit it out of the park every time, and it's another fine example of the bullpen, Marvel bullpen in the 70s. It was the Wild West, as creators have told us on this show, and they're making shit up as they go along and rushing it. And
right. We have talked on the show about the circumstances under which a lot of these comics were created. There's no question that both of these issues were created under the gun, this one less so than the other one. But my suspicion is we got to this thing and Conway was plotting it and he was thinking, well, shit, how do I wrap this up quickly? Because I want room for all the other stuff that I have in here. And it's like, oh, what if she just has a total mental breakdown when she realizes that she's been working for men all along? And that probably seemed like such a great idea at the time. And I can kind of see why he'd think that, but it doesn't work at all.
No, it does not. I had never read either of these issues before. And I asked myself, if I had read them as a kid, would I have enjoyed them more? And I think the answer is absolutely yes in both cases. For, me back in 1974, hell yeah, this is everything I wanted.
Oh, yeah. I had read both of these issues before and loved them both, I'm sure.
Yeah, but,
I had fond memories of the Thing and Ghost Rider on Christmas Eve and fond memories of Spider-Man and the Cat teaming up. Yeah. But reading them now, it's just like, come on. And again, like that, the man killer could have just been enraged beyond anything and created a diversion and run off to get her vengeance on AIM.
Yeah.
That would be a logical conclusion to the story. Anyway.
That's it for this week.
I want to point out that the next issue of Marvel Team Up is Spider-Man and the Invincible Iron Man. And on the cover, Spider-Man points out that they're in the middle of, in big letters, the Tomorrow War, which happens to be a movie that just came out starring Chris Pratt that everybody says is garbage, but I'm going to watch anyway.
You know what else you should do before you watch the Tomorrow War?
Read the new book by Matthew Wilderson.
Read the new book by Matt Wilderson. Matt, of course, author extraordinaire, podcaster extraordinaire, and also the engineer of Defenders Dialogue. Go to Amazon.com, type Matt Wilderson in the search bar, and all of his books will pop up. If you support him, you are supporting the show. It's that simple, folks.
Yeah, because we don't make any money doing this show. Therefore, Matt does it for free.
That's right.
So when you support Matt, you're supporting this show existing. Think of it as us doing the PBS fundraiser, except instead of calling in to donate money to support PBS, you're buying Matt's book to support Defenders Dialogue.
Exactly. And straight talk. When I have extra money, I pay Matt a little bit of money, because he helps us out with the show.
He deserves it.
Yeah. Here lately, I don't have any extra money, nor does any other author I know. Now that the pandemic is over and people have gone the fuck outside, they're not staying home reading books. So we're all hurting. Matt's hurting too. help the man out.
Exactly. All right, brother. Well, listen, brother. You know what I always say, Brian?
What do you always say? You say it's dynamite.
Dynamite. Exactly.
No, it's something else from that era. It's what is it, Chris?
Hey.
No, but I'd forgotten about that until now. It's
that was Dwayne Wayne on What's Happening.
I know. I'd forgotten all about that until now.
All right, man. Excelsior, true believers.
Excelsior indeed. We'll see you next week, folks.
Defenders Dialogue. You can listen to this episode and all previous episodes for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play Music, and wherever else podcasts are available. Defenders Dialogue is written and produced by Brian Keene and Christopher Golden. Our theme music is by Xander Harris. Our engineer is Matt Wilderson. Check out his books on Amazon.com.